Another type of wash we can use is actually just using Agrex Earthshade, which is no mixing, just straight up their matte version, not their gloss version. This stuff will not flow as much, right? It will sort of make the flatter surfaces look more dirtier, which is going to be rather cool and good for our cushions, our seat cushions, just here, and being a nice sort of Agrex Earthshade. We can get this and we can just put this all over as well, right? It is glossy, right, so it's not going to completely and utterly just kind of stay all on the surfaces, right? And all these techniques just means that you haven't got to go off and do highlights or anything like that. We're literally just slapping on a base, we're dry brushing it, and then nicely we're whacking a wash on, and it doesn't really get any more easier and effective than this, really. I mean, you can go so much more advanced, but this is just so easy, and it just has such a lovely effect also. So coming back to the cockpit section, we've got all our sort of nice grey bits. They've got that, you know, you can sort of see in the recesses, you can see those black sort of lines and stuff. That's where the wash has gone in. It's bringing out the detail, showing shadows, all those kind of cool things. However, the black, our black areas, you know, a black wash isn't going to do anything to our black areas, so we're going to come in with a different type of wash and a different colour. Going to be using a really nice light grey. You know, looking at black stuff, you know, things come up kind of grey, dirt does, so we've got this really cool grey for white filter. Now this is an enamel based wash. So it's quite different. It's more sort of advanced, more intermediate, because whereas like our Games Workshop washes, they are like acrylic based. They've probably got using inks or something. When they dry, and they dry quickly, you know, that's it. It's sort of, it is what it is. So any sort of mistakes can't really be cleaned up. With enamels, they take a fair bit of time to actually dry, which means you can mess around, manipulate, and do all sorts of cool stuff with it, which kind of makes it more of an advanced type thing. So you want to give them a good shake and make sure all the sediment is off of the bottom, because enamel paints, they can separate a lot more than your acrylics and whatnot. So give them a good shake. Then we're just going to do our top part just here as an example. Coming in, I'm going to be using a flat brush to apply it. Now it is a really hot day in the UK, so I have got fans on and stuff because it is absolutely boiling, so hopefully the sound won't be too bad, but it is going to sort of affect our modelling when we are, you know, painting in these kind of heats. Now as I'm painting this on, because it's an enamel based, you'll sort of see how it's got such a lovely capillary action. It just flows so nice. Now we don't want it to like really sort of pull up in areas, so sort of like brush around and sort of, you know, push all the pulled areas into areas you haven't done yet, right? You want enough down so it does go into those recesses and it's gonna create those dirty areas. But the cool thing is with this, if we do get it on any flat areas, and it makes it look really sort of horrible, so let's just, maybe we've got this flat area just here, I'm just going to put, you know, a fair bit on here just to sort of show you what we can do with enamels. Right, and then I'm just brushing this all over, and then what we want to do is just leave it to dry for a couple of minutes. Now leaving it to dry, normally in I don't know, shall we say you know, maybe like 15 degrees, sort of like normal temperatures, maybe 20 degrees, I'd probably leave that for like maybe 15-20 minutes, then I'd come back to it. But it's a really hot day. I mean, it's probably around about maybe almost 30 degrees C. Things dry a lot quicker, and you do have to be careful of that when you're doing these kind of techniques, because once these enamels have dried, it makes the next stage harder to do. So I'm going to leave this probably about 5 minutes is probably all it's going to take. Just keep an eye on it. As soon as it starts looking dry, you want to move on to the next step. Right, so with enamels, as I say, they're really nice and easy to manipulate. So coming in with some enamel odorless thinners. The thinners basically rehydrate our enamel paint, and we can clean it up. So I mean, if you look at this now that it's basically dry, it is looking a bit too messy, so you might want to tidy it up. So getting our enamel thinners, which I do recommend you always stick with the manufacturer's enamel thinners, don't go off and buy some DIY white spirits, because they are, tend to be rather strong. And what we can do is we can just sort of probably just dab at this. We've got this big flat area which I overdid it, right? And if we just dab at this, what we can do is we basically rehydrate, we suck up a lot of this sort of paint, right? And as you can see, we've nicely cleaned up this area, and we can do this to pretty much all of it, and sort of leaving it nicely in any recesses, right, because it's had time to dry, right? As we sort of like brush across this, we're going to be able to rehydrate and clean up the flatter surfaces easier, because they're easier to get to, but all those nooks and crannies and recesses, the paintbrush is harder to get to. So we basically leave behind our enamel based wash. Now you want to keep a kitchen paper towel on standby, because as we're sort of like cleaning this up, that enamel paint's going onto the paintbrush is going to start building up with more and more paint, and then it's just going to look messier as you go along. So constantly cleaning off your paintbrush, re-dipping it into the enamel thinners, and then just going at it again, and we can just keep on cleaning this up, tidying it up, right, until we've got it the way we want. And this is the thing, I mean, we could in some areas leave it a bit more dirtier, maybe get a flat brush out, right, and we can as I say, sort of like we've got a bit of a dirty area just here, we just sort of like clean this up with the paintbrush, right, and we can just paint it however we want it. And that's the cool thing I love about enamels, is we can go about this any way we want. We can get out a cotton wool bud, dip it in our enamel thinners like so, roll it on a kitchen paper towel so it's moist, it's not soaking, right, and we can sort of just brush this along our piece just here. And as we brush along, we're gonna nice and easily sort of get the majority of the actual enamel paint off the surfaces, leaving behind what's in the recesses, and it just tidies it all up rather nicely, as you can see just there. And I've done the same with the actual instrument display panel. If we look at this now, we've got all sorts of dirt, grime and everything all over it, and it's looking kind of dusty with that nice sort of grey filter that we put on. Even all our little pieces as well, just under here, and our ejector seat also, as you can see, all that has gone into all the little creases, nooks and crannies, and it's given it that bit of a dusty sort of look all the way around. So that now is pretty much done. I'm just going to carry on around this and get it all nice.